How's it going, Mets and overall baseball fans? Welcome back to the channel. And folks, we have a big discussion here, and I'm really excited for it because Brett Baty has the stars aligning in his favor to be the Mets starting third baseman this year as soon as opening day potentially, and this goes directly in hand with the latest news and articles that have come out on the Baty front. So before we get into it all I ask is that if you're new to the channel, don't hesitate from smashing that like and subscribe button. Thank you guys all so much in advance for your endless support, and of course I have to let you all know that today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your #1 source for all your sports betting needs, so make sure you head over to betonline.ag using promo code Bleav at BLEAV. That way you get yourself a 50% off welcome bonus. BetOnline, it's where the games begin. Now folks, let's officially let the show begin because today's articles that we'll be referencing are here. Anthony DiComo the other day did a phenomenal interview one-on-one with Brett Baty, so a lot of great words coming from the man's mouth himself. And then to the right here, what came out earlier today at MLB.com, Jonathan Mayo states that yes, we have our MLB pipeline top 10 third base prospect rankings. Let's start with that because that's headlined in today's title of the video, that yes, Brett Baty is the #2 top prospect at the third base position in all the game right now. If you're wondering why isn't he #1 like he was last year at the third base position among prospect rankings in the MLB, that is because this guy Gunnar Henderson, I'm not sure if you know who he is, kind of a stud prospect for the Baltimore Orioles, is just ahead of him because Henderson, who was initially brought up as a shortstop or even a guy that could transition to second base to get his career started, is likely going to be getting the bulk of playing time for the Orioles at the third base position this year. So because of that reason, that is why Henderson is above Baty. But don't worry, Baty still has as much potential as ever as a 1A, 1B type situation for that #1 spot with Henderson. And what really gets me excited is, according to Jonathan Mayo in this article, he is deemed as having the highest floor among all third base prospects in the game right now. Mayo went on to say the following, that yes, putting Henderson here could also make sense, but the certainty people have in Baty's bat gets the nod. It's possible he ends up in the outfield or eventually first base, but that left-handed swing is going to play much like it did when he posted a 943 OPS in the minors this past season. Now, again, I want to know your raw thoughts about Brett Baty down below. For me, I just gotta say I'm excited about this because highest floor, what does that mean? It's that at his absolute worst, Brett Baty is believed, not only from guys of the MLB, but across the land of baseball, to, again, still perform the best at his worst versus, say, even a guy like Henderson, even though it's 1A, 1B there, and all the other top third base prospects in the game. So while you might see guys with higher ceilings, they also have a lower floor, the more boom or bust. Baty is as much of a certainty as ever now with that bat to ball skills especially. So now let's get into why should we be excited about Brett Baty. Again, a lot of us Mets fans, including myself, initially thought that Carlos Correa would be commanding third base for the Mets for at least the next decade. Now that is not the case, and Brett Baty is aware of that from his article that he did with Anthony DiComo's interview rather, which stated when asked about the Correa situation, he was as mature as it comes. He was like, okay, if we're getting Correa, I'm going to shift to a left field right away. Get reps in there, be ready. And again, Baty has that bat to ball ability to make it fine to be in left field. And again, I don't expect him to be a stud in the position, but he would be able to command his own in a platoon spot potentially with Canna for the year. So he was ready right away to go to a different position, even if it wasn't in the best interest of his career path and him being a more marketable player down the stretch when looking for a big payday. A hot corner versus left field, there is quite the difference usually, especially if you are a premier bat, which Baty is expected to be. But now getting into, okay, Baty realizes now that Carlos Correa is not going to be a New York Met. Third base is all there for the taking. He is going all in on this, and this is what really gets me excited, okay? Because as the article from Anthony DiComo highlights, and this is a phenomenal point, Brett Baty is someone who has spent the entire offseason working on his defensive game. Because as we know, you see from his 2022 stat line, wasn't anything crazy during his little stint with the Mets. 11 games, 2 home runs, awesome, including that first home run in the first game against the Braves. It was really cool. 5 RBIs, 4 runs scored, a sub 200 average, but those numbers really mean nothing. All that was getting him experience, which was awesome. Again, a Mets team that was desperate, had Eduardo Escobar hurt down the stretch, needed a third baseman fit there that could actually command third base decently, better than Mark Vientos. That's what Brett Baty could do. Even though that defense still didn't look great, the bat was there, was phenomenal in AA and AAA with a 315 average, a 945 OPS, and 19 home runs, 60 RBIs, 70 plus runs scored. So there's a lot of potential with this kid. We're aware of that. However, knowing that he got that sample size is great, but what really stuck out this entire time was his defensive ability. And that's something that he's worked on drastically this offseason in his home state of Texas and is planning to transition over to the MLB level starting this season. He's already getting ahead by coming to spring training a full month early. And this is Brett Baty, who's been in constant contact with Eric Chavez and the entire Mets coaching staff as of late throughout the offseason. Make sure that he is ready to go and getting to spring training a month earlier than when position players are required to do so. So now let's look at, okay, what is Brett Baty's chances of actually becoming the Mets opening day starter, or at least starter early into the year? It is taking full advantage of the opportunity now given to him with the World Baseball Classic. As many of you know, Eduardo Escobar and Mark Vientos, the other third baseman for the Mets, are going to be representing their respective countries in this year's WBC, which I'm excited for separately. I hope no Mets get hurt, but I'm excited. I love that tournament. I think it's great for the game still. No less Brett Baty. He's not going to be playing for Team USA or anything like that. He's going to be with the Mets here, and he's going to take full advantage with the full mindset of not only hoping, but expecting to become the Mets starting third baseman by opening day, while allowing his performance in spring training and throughout really getting to the start of the year prove itself. Baty, who again has looked great that we've seen in recent springs and in minor leagues overall, has been a raker when it comes to not only the ability to hit for opposite field, the ability to pull the ball, the ability to have power in that swing, but at Brett Baty, that's fully expected to also take advantage of an MLB that now has a limited shift to no shift. So Brett Baty, a guy that was getting stuffed quite a bit with his shift a little bit, especially going down first in just his handful of 40 plate appearances this past year, that's going to be gone. You can't have third base, three players along the first base side. So Brett Baty, he's going to get more opportunities, get that ball in play, get it dropping where guys are no longer allowed to defend and be in those areas from the jump. That's going to help him this year for sure. And we'll see how he does against MLB caliber pitching, in which he'll really have the chance to play the majority of spring training as the Mets starting third baseman. And hopefully for his sake, that transitions into him starting the year as the Mets starting third baseman. Because I don't know about every one of you, I'm a big fan of Eduardo Escobar. You know, he was phenomenal, Mr. September for the Mets, but let's not get it twisted. He was great in 1 month for the Mets this past year, right? Has pop in his swing for sure. You even could see him and Baty platoon, which I think is a very realistic possibility this year. But you also don't want to develop Baty as a platoon player because he's expected to be a full-time starter and a really strong one at the hot corner. So Eddie, while I appreciate everything he did in the month of September last year, was great when no one else was, it felt like. Look at the other months last year. He was abysmal. The guy was so bad for so long for the Mets that you couldn't even warrant him starting every day. That's how bad it was getting. Now, I hope for Eddie and that great personality that things change, but I think this type of competition is exactly what both need. Again, Eddie's on his last year of his contract, more than likely, with the Mets here, and Baty is really trying to get his MLB career not only started, but established here in 2023. There's a lot of things to be excited for. I know that I am on the Brett Baty train every day of the week. Even when the Correa news was happening, yes, the Mets could trade Baty if they wanted, because we saw rumors out there saying that, oh, Brett Baty, you know, he's been in contact, not himself, but the Marlins have been in contact with the Mets to potentially do a trade. That was a possibility before and after the Correa news. The Marlins were trying to give an Edward Cabrera or Jesus Luzardo, one of their young studs, in return for Baty. The Mets said no for a reason. I mean, even again, if he was playing in left field, I really like what Brett Baty brings to the table for this Mets team, starting with his offense and the defense second. But now the stars are truly looking like they're aligning in the young man's favor to have as best of a shot as ever and hopefully take full advantage of this opportunity to in fact become the Mets starter, if not by opening day, then soon into the 2023 season. But Mets fans, I want to know your thoughts down below. How do you feel about Brett Baty and the potential that he brings to the Mets at the hot corner? Do you think that that is one of the type of kids in this infield now, especially that can really help take this offense to a new height than what it was last year? Whatever your thoughts are, make sure to drop it down below. And as always, folks, thank you so much for your endless support by smashing that like and subscribe button. Stay tuned for more great content as always throughout the week and the weeks going forward here on WardyNYM. I'll talk to you again real soon. Let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.